So how do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminski Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. Today I have a guest. I've been doing a bunch of solos lately, but I really wanted to have my next guest on because he has a very unique position to his business. And if you want to create a service out of your authority or have an authority-based business, right? We'll talk about what all that is in a second. I like the way he coined it offline. He said, authority as a service. This guy is the guy you need to listen to because he knows a thing or two when it comes to positioning and really getting the eyeballs onto what it is that you do as a brand. So without further ado, I want to introduce Michael Gasiorek from truthcartel.com. What's going on, Michael?
Beautiful. Thank you for that introduction. I mean, I'm already blushing over here. So if anyone's listening, you can imagine, Polish guy, rosy cheeks, and that kind of gets you started. But thanks for that intro, and really glad to be here.
Dude, so tell us the story about how you got into this and
sure enough.
Where we are today. We could be here for hours, so let's keep it tight. But I want to get the audience understanding, who you are and why you do what you do.
Yeah, so you already got a hint of it, but I'm an Eastern European immigrant, so chip my shoulder from day one. Started things off, didn't know English, got way too chubby, living under the poverty line with mom and dad in New Jersey. Coming in with a little bit of baggage, trying to prove myself. And
where in Jersey do you live?
So I was over in Englewood. So we started in Passaic, ended up going into Bergen County eventually when we started, putting a little more scratch together. But now I'm in San Francisco. So,
nice. I'm in Jersey too. So,
no kidding. Small world.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Awesome. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Not at all. Please continue to interrupt. Keep me on track here. But that said, the journey for me started with trying to find, how do I do good well at some scale in the world? I toyed with the idea of diplomacy and explored that world and realized, doing the right thing way too slowly. I went to advertising for a while, worked at a big ad tech company in New York City, big glamour glass office. And then they're doing the wrong thing really fast. So I was looking for how to do the right thing with some speed, and sort of stumbled into technology while I was on a study abroad in Hong Kong. Did a little startup weekend, fell in love with startups, and ran through that for a while. The company did reasonably well, raised some money, but I didn't really do reasonably well as a leader of a team. And frankly, that crashed and burned. Gave some money back, but I already got bitten by the bug. That failure kind of behind me. I tried to figure out what to do next. Spent some time in an amazing company called Graziosi, and that's where I fell in love with media and marketing as well. So then bringing the two together, technology and marketing, I really kind of had the way forward. Had my claim to fame at Startup Grind by, building a pretty big media business. And we were hitting, $1 million or $2 million a month in eyeballs from scratch. And I felt great about that. And I thought I should start doing this for other people. How do we get other people to become as big, as visible, as authoritative as this company became over the time that I was there? And that's how I spun up this company now, Truth Cartel. We've been around for about 3 or 4 years. We started off doing ICOs during the crypto boom. People just kept coming to me, hey, you know a thing about marketing. You do our ICO, right? And so one after another, we kind of started launching these tokens. And fell in love with crypto, of course. But as the business came on, these companies that had done these ICOs, just like individuals, realized, wait a minute, it's no longer about, look how cool we are on the front end. Now they have to actually put substance towards the back end, right? Who are you really? What do you stand for? Why are you here? What do you want people to know about you? And that's where this authority building as a service thing came together. So we've really kind of crystallized like a few models that work really well across people, across industries, across companies. 3 years in, we've worked with, a BCG, a Comcast, an Oracle, but also with, really small and, very niche crypto companies like Algorand or Republic, which have now broken into your Bloombergs and your Forbes and so on. So it's been one hell of a journey. The low of the low was when I was still in $60K of credit card debt from the failure of a company. The high of the high, I think, is right now. Just chatting with you, getting to tell this story. It feels great to be on the other side of that. This company has taken me all the way through.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I appreciate you sharing with us like the lows and the highs. Like that's entrepreneurship. That is brand building. That's business. People think, they see they see the outcomes or they see the results and they think like, oh, it's a piece of cake or, oh, they had an in with somebody or nobody ever wants to give you the props that you deserve when you've gone through the mud. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
The fact that,
and what a loss that is too, because then that's how you really connect. Then you're a real person. Oh, you've got your knocks.
Right. That's the intimacy of it. I think that's where people really start to connect, and people think that it's a weakness, and I would say that it's not. It's a true strength. That vulnerability has helped me connect with so many clients in the past, and that's why this show is getting so popular, is because I'm going to tell you when things are shitty and I'm going to tell you when things are really good. Like, I want you to learn from my mistakes, and I also want you to learn from the things that we're doing well too. So let's get into authority as a service for a second. So for those folks that don't know what that is, let's kind of clarify. Question one is, what exactly is that?
Sure. So let's take a few examples, right? Let's go through three very, very popular examples. Just because it's, kind of top of mind, let's take the role of a startup CEO, right? You're in a very competitive field. Let's say you're in recruiting, or you're in, let's say, you're the hottest cryptocurrency on the block, right? As another example, we can take the role of an investor, right? You're trying to get into a bunch of venture capital deals. And frankly, how are people going to know that you're the guy to trust, that you stand for something, that you have more than just a check behind your name? And then there's another final example that we can play with is, let's think about those coaches who've moved into the world of education and info products, right? Now you have something more to offer than just your time. Now you're also selling digital goods that basically will, make you money while you sleep, you hope. But ultimately, it's a matter of getting people to trust you as the educator. Every one of these businesses, whether it's a company, right, it's an education company, or it's a startup, or it's an individual at the helm of that startup, has a way of ultimately they need to close deals, they need to build trust, they need to become the authority in their field, or they don't sell, they don't win, they don't grow, right? Yeah. Every one of these three kind of case studies has a way of like creating value and capturing value from authority, right? So when you think of these authority businesses, it's any type of business where the more credible the company and the individual is, the better their bottom line, right? The very common examples used to be these info product businesses, but ultimately it absolutely applies to the competitive world of investing, absolutely applies to the competitive world of being in the startup game. And any company that, has a leader at the helm that's actually, built some authority, is a little bit of famous, is going to really go all the distance. And so we basically offer that as a service package. We combine a handful of different services to basically reverse engineer the things that, a Cialdini or Robert Greene would say, yeah, do these things, and then you'll be the hot shot in your sphere. We just do that in that particular industry.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So now my next question is, I have a tendency to ask multiple questions in one question. I'm patting myself on the back here. I'm actually taking my time and asking one question at a time.
You can throw me curveballs. I think we can take it.
Yeah, no. You're doing great. That was a really great answer. That clarified it for me, So my next question is, where do most people get this wrong? Like, sure. Where are most people that you just explained?
Right.
Like, right. What are they not doing that they should be doing?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Probably the biggest thing to kind of get wrong is to not do it at all. I'm a big sort of performance marketing nerd myself. I cut my teeth doing, traffic building and SEO, doing paid ads, running social media channels, going by the numbers, right? And I was not just, kind of hard coded to look at numbers or else it's not working. So too, I was also super cheap, I'm not even thrifty, cheap. We were running a bootstrap startup. And so if this is not going to get me X growth, forget about it. So most people just don't do it, right? Let's say you decide that you're going to be thinking big. Let's say you go ahead and do what we would call sort of brand marketing, right? Well, where most of that starts and ends is brand marketing for the company, right? They'll take out a billboard, right? They'll take out some stickers on a car driving around town. They get one of those little Uber billboards, whatever it is. It's advocating the company itself, right? But what the real opportunity here is to have the leadership, anyone who's especially closing deals, right? Anyone on the front line, the CEO closing deals with investors, right? The sales lead closing deals with clients, the technical lead closing deals with prospective partners on the actual infrastructure of the company. Any of the people there who have built a brand as a trustworthy and ultimately persuasive person that really has value to add to the field, I would take that call. I would go on and have a conversation with them. And when you're on that conversation is probably going to go really easy because they already trust you. So you don't have to sell them that you're worth trusting, right? And then they can also charge higher rates typically because now you're in demand. And the last bit is you can probably also retain clients better because no one wants to leave the company that's now the hotshot company in legal services, recruiting, et cetera. Right. So the things that they don't do is they don't really see the value prop of building an authority as a company or as an individual. And when they do it, they usually don't do it for a person. They do it for the company as a whole. No one really wants to step into the limelight. And if they do, they hopefully get it right. But then the tactics become a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So that leads me to another question. Mm-hmm. To be specific to our audience, the audience that a lot of the audience that listens to this show are either coaches, consultants, small business owners, maybe a service-based business owner, some online business owners, right? They're either doing courses or things like that, or real estate agents, folks like that, right?
Perfect.
What could they be doing? So personal brands.
Sure.
What could they be doing to build their authority? I want to get into the weeds a little bit and get a little tactical because I know that I know my audience well, and I know they're going to be like, Henry asked the question, what the hell should we be doing so we can take notes?
For sure. Beautiful, beautiful question. And especially awesome relevance, right? You're talking to me about coaches, real estate brokers, these folks who are service owners. I mean, I'm a service business owner, right? Mm-hmm. I do some coaching on the side with startups who are doing growth. Right. So this is the perfect thing because, not only am I my own client, but I know what it feels like to be on the other end of that. Right. And I know, I first tried to do this agency when I had no name behind me. I hadn't really put my time in. I hadn't put the notches in my belt. It took me building some sort of media business in between to actually get to a position where I could feel not just, hey, I got this, but I could also service this to others. So I know what it feels like to be on the other side. I know no one is willing to take your call. I know when people are going to take you seriously. When you're competing as one among a million in a LinkedIn message here or in a bench ad there, it sucks, right? So reverse engineering this thing was a labor of love. And let me just kind of give everyone the model, right? When I think of the 4 things, and again, I'm not the genius here. I give my props to folks like writers of influence, writers of the book Mastery or the 48 Laws of Power. I give my knocks to give my sort of shout outs to How to Win Friends and Influence People. These are all great books. I recommend if you're going to do anything, read there to start. Get yourself the fundamental knowledge while you do the work. Yeah. Then you're going to have a little bit of understanding of what it is we're talking about here. So looking at the way the authority is built, what are the 4 kind of things that you kind of need to have? And I'm not saying there aren't more, but these are the 4 that we found. The first thing is you need to have original ideas, right? You're going to be known not just you're charismatic, but also for what ideas you bring to the world, right? So if you're a real estate broker, is there something you can put that's an interesting twist, like selling houses sight unseen, right? Or going through deal brokers, or taking on a different marketing approach than others, right? What is it that's unique to you? What approach do you have that's interesting, right? If you're going to be a coach, what success have you been able to get with clients that they say they've changed their lives, right? How do you take it from 0 to 1, right? Try to pick out whether it's your approach or your results or some way of looking at the problem that's unique. And that's the first key piece, originating original ideas, right?
Okay.
The thing about these ideas is those ideas go beyond you, right?
Okay.
So if you're very clever, then you don't have to be in the room to sell the deal. Someone else talking about your idea is going to sell the deal. The same way I just did for Cialdini, Robert Greene, right?
Got it.
Exactly.
Got it.
Right. So number 2, right? This is where you have to develop some sort of audience, right?
Okay.
The problem that most people have here is that they decide to build an audience everywhere at once. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, etc. Pick one channel. That one channel is where your customers already are. And we'll talk a little about what we can do there. But ultimately, if you're going to have original ideas, figure out where you're going to share those ideas.
Okay.
Right? And the people who follow you become your audience and become fans of yours. That's the hardest part. Now, if you got these 2 down, which is definitely where you want to start, these next 2 are going to come pretty organically. You just got to keep putting the time in. Those 2 things are what we'll call affiliation and accreditation. Right? Affiliation, you're rubbing shoulders with the right people in your industry. Just like we're on this podcast, right? We both look good, right? We both bringing our brands to the table so that we both benefit from the love of our respective audiences, interacting, and also, ultimately whoever listens to this can get a sense that, hey, these guys know what they're talking about. And again, do this enough times and you will have rubbed enough shoulders with people that you become their peer, right? Whenever you appear on whenever you're speaking at an event, whenever you're appearing on a podcast, whenever you're in the right room at the right time, whether it's a dinner or it's a mingling event, that's an opportunity to kind of become a peer to those that you might consider your idols, right? We have a way of reverse engineering that. But the last bit is what we'll call accreditation. And here, the simplest thing is to recognize that it's not official until it's in the press, right? And I have mixed opinions about the news media lately, but it still remains the case that ultimately, if it's really going to be gospel, if it's really going to be the truth, you're the number one social media agency in your region, or if you're the number one real estate broker in this particular type of unit, or if you're the best coach for this type of person, then when it's in the media, you can really say, okay, as featured in Forbes, as featured in TechCrunch, as featured in Inc. And that has this amazing effect when you go to your website, right? You're like, wow, okay, this guy knows his stuff. So these 4 things, generally in that order, is how I would say anyone should work on it. And we can get a lot deeper, but what I want people to think about is original ideas delivered to a faithful audience in one place, not a whole bunch of places, just one place to start consistently. That then allows you to build relationships with people you would consider your idols or betters from the frame of peer to finally then earn accreditation from sources like media, institutions, awards, etc., that put you on a pedestal of being an idol to others. This is the progression. Got it.
I love it. All right. So let's go one more step deeper into those 4. I don't want to open up a new can of worms, but let's focus on right. So the first one was original ideas. So how do we get an original idea? And I was taught about lateral thinking versus linear thinking.
Sure.
And lateral thinking is taking 2 very different ideas and shazamming them together and seeing what happens, right? Seeing what comes out of that. So you mentioned something like the real estate, selling, normally houses aren't sold sight unseen. And you're mixing that, that no way moment with a moment that it sometimes happens, right? Maybe that's a poor example, but you're taking 2 very different things and jamming them together and you're creating something, right? That's where I think original ideas may originate from, right? So I want the audience to draw a line down the middle of a piece of paper and think of one thing, right, that you would say is unique to you, and then jam it with something that's absolutely the opposite and see what comes out of it, right? And do that a few times and you'll start to work up a muscle and then bam. So I did one. Now for the audience, I get this question. If I had $1 for every time I got this question, like I'd be on a yacht somewhere doing this podcast.
Yep.
People want to know, like, how do you build the audience? How do you build an audience? So I'm going to throw this one at you and ask you, like, how would you do it?
Yes, right. The original idea component is awesome. And I think it really does come down to actually distributing the idea. So once you have the idea and you have it produced, the idea of publishing and promoting it is really key. And you are indeed promoting it to an audience. Now, here's the deal with audiences, right? The greatest issue that you could sort of stumble on is try to build across all fronts simultaneously.
Bad move.
Right? Forget about it. Exactly. You're gonna do a video day and 3 tweets a day and Facebook posts. Like, oh my Lord, no chance.
No way.
Your best bet is to go to where your audience already exists.
Okay.
Now, where is that going to be, right? I find that a lot of people who are working on startups and doing things in tech, I find that to work on Twitter. A lot of folks who seem to be, doing info products and, selling sort of coaching, Facebook seems like a good place, unless it's in the health, nutrition, fitness, or any other visual space where Instagram might be an option.
Okay.
Right? And then finally, if you're in the world of sort of trying to do things in the world of investing and what have you, you're probably going to need to communicate things in a slightly longer form, where I find Medium or Substack being an email platform up where you can basically write a newsletter, are also good opportunities. But here's the thing. The only thing that matters is that you pick one and you stick to it, and that the one you pick is where your audience already is.
Yeah. Do you have a certain amount of time that you stick with it? Do you give yourself a year, 6 months? I know people are going to ask those questions. Like,
yeah, sure. What I would like to do is to just get let's actually break one audience down just to show you what to look for, what the milestones are. Right.
Let's do it.
And the milestones I think that you'd want is start, then develop your audience of people you already know, then begin to take high, consistent action on that audience, and then check in. Right? Check in. I've done it for a month. I've done it for 3 months. How are we doing?
And what types of content are you posting? Because I get that question a lot too.
Yeah, totally. Let's maybe for the sake of going deep on one, let's look at Twitter.
Okay.
Where every one of these audiences is going to have every one of these platforms is going to have a different approach. The best thing you can do is study the platform, spend time on it before you take action on it. Just like understand how it works.
Yeah.
What is Twitter for? How is it used? How are the people with big followings in your niche using them? So study your competition, right? There's a lot to be learned. You don't have to read them at the wheel.
Yes.
Now on Twitter, what you're going to want to do is set up your profile, get a nice bio, picture, backdrop, nothing too revolutionary here. But what the heck do you do when you're on Twitter, right? How do you know you've had a good day or you've put in a good day's work on Twitter, right? Well, the first thing you're probably going to want to do is tell your friends you're on Twitter. Tell your whatever email list you have. If you're running a real estate broker firm, let your customers know, hey, I'm just starting this Twitter thing here. Maybe you want to give me a follow and we can actually have a conversation about what to do with real estate once you bought it or if you're looking to buy your next investment property, right? And onboard your existing customers, your existing audience, right? And if you say you don't have any audience, just look at your email contact list. You got hundreds, maybe thousands of people there who are already kind of interested in what you do in some way. I'm not saying necessarily spam all of them, but I'm saying that's a great place for you to start. Tell the people you're already emailing with, hey, I just started a social media profile. I'm going to go deep on blank here, where blank is what's going to be interesting. What's your original idea? What are you going to talk about in terms of real estate, coaching, startups, investing?
Yeah.
Right. Then the next step is actually start delivering that value.
Yeah.
Granted, you haven't actually, onboarded a lot of people. Maybe you've only got your first 50, your first 100, your first 150 from that. For Twitter, you're really shooting for thousands. So what do you do? On a good day, you're probably not so much posting tweets and links. On a good day, you're going to other people's profiles and having a conversation there.
There you go.
Right. So at the end of the day, what you want to do is develop, your unique perspective. Tell the people who already care about your unique perspective that you're doing this thing in a given place, and then keep spending time around the most popular water coolers where your perspective matters, right? And this is kind of the case with any of these platforms, right? Facebook, go to Facebook groups, instead of posting to your profile alone.
Yep.
Email lists, start sharing on LinkedIn or wherever else, and say, if you want the full delivery, if you want this early, if you want this, deep, just set up for the email list, right? Any of these platforms, you ultimately want to, again, nail your audience, be consistent, develop that unique voice, and continue to basically cultivate these conversations wherever they're already happening.
Love it. Okay. Yeah. I love it. Now, what about the next two? Affiliation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Affiliation and accreditation are a lot easier when you've nailed the first two.
You're right.
This is a very natural progression. So let's say, just for the sake of conversation, to keep things kind of smooth and kind of on a lateral progression there, that you've already got kind of a unique take. Maybe as a coach, you do some really interesting work with people who are trauma survivors and now want to start their first business as a way of, kind of healing their, healing not just themselves, but others, right? Maybe they want to become coaches themselves. Maybe they want to become, consultants or otherwise, offer some sort of product, right? And then you've built, a community of people who are interested in it. Maybe not thousands, just a few hundred, but then you're someone to talk to, then you bring with you to a podcast like this or to a conversation somewhere on a stage, not just you and your ideas, but also an audience with you and an idea set you've developed, polished it, right? It's a beautiful thing. What do? Well, now you've probably have spent enough time developing an audience that you kind of know who the hot shots are, who the nodes in your network are, and what kind of conversations they might be hosting, right? And you want to get in some of those conversations. Right? Now, some people will host podcasts, right? That's one of my favorite formats because I'm a big chatterbox, right? If you're honest, probably already got that. But you might be really good at, local seminars about how to buy your first real estate property. You might be really good in, Zoom calls where people are doing, different sort of co-teaching elements, right? And I won't be able to know what your audience likes, but you'll know because the people who are leading the conversation on these platforms are hosts of these things, right? Tends to be that they've gained their momentum, they've gained their position because they've given away lots of value and they've also platformed others who then pay their respects, right?
Yeah.
So what I would look for is opportunities to appear on podcasts. I would look for opportunities to appear on panels, opportunities to teach, right? Opportunities to contribute content to existing publications, that kind of thing, where basically I can get the benefit of that person's affiliation. They become my friend.
Yep.
Right? And the quickest way to do that, I think, is just to go out there and pitch. These hosts, these editors, these panel organizers, they want people. They need people, right? I run a community. We have an event every Tuesday, right? I always want someone with a good idea to tell me, hey, you know what? I know your audience. Not just, hey, here's what I'm trying to sell you. I know your audience. Here's what they would like. Here's what I can provide. Here's what I would ask for. And, for me, just an opportunity to connect with you and connect with your audience, right? What a beautiful offer. Someone send me one of those. When can you do it?
Yeah,
let's go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But the key there is to know what they're focused on at that moment. Like, for example, we had Dean Graziosi on the show a few months back, and he was just launching his new book, The Underdog.
Yep.
And I knew this was the perfect timing to have him on the show because he's promoting the hell out of the book. So we did this whole thing. We went like 45 minutes, almost an hour. And he was great, and at the end he was talking about his book. He was so excited about it. And I was excited for him. And it was a great way to have a big guy like that come on the show. So stay focused on what they're focused on, right? And how can you add to that? How can you help them blow up? Lewis Howes is really good at this. He has he's got like always the amazing guests on his show, right? Well, he knows how to tap into what it is that they want right now. And he has a huge platform to get them out there. So it's a win-win. So that's affiliation. Accreditation. Yep. This one is, I'm curious to see what you say about this one. Like how can somebody execute accrediting themselves other than, go into a college and get in a degree or, something along those lines?
For sure. This is one of those interesting things where you basically want to borrow the credibility of those who have come before you or who have come to their credibility because they're part of another institution,
That's
right?
interesting.
So we're basically going to borrow our credibility, right?
Huh.
Now, granted, you put Dean on, right? That's really cool. In some ways, you each accredit each other. Hey, this guy's got a dope guy on their podcast, and this podcast also put him on a platform. That's an awesome thing. But you've built this thing from the ground up, right? So there's opportunities like that to go with someone who's built their own authority from the work that they've put in.
Yeah.
And that's basically, that's basically like organic and sort of earned credibility. And then there's also borrowed credibility. You got a journalist over at Inc. or Entrepreneur. Okay, maybe they're pretty cool people, but hey, ultimately they're credible because they're right for that publication, not because they're necessarily hotshots. Okay. And what you're looking for is opportunities to have those people endorse you in some way.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the most obvious is, again, to kind of be in the right circles, the right people who say, this guy is worth having on a panel, or this girl's, one of the best coaches. But when it comes to something that's an asset that you can use consistently, that you can ride that thing all the way to the bank, all the way to the cows come home, it's press. Press is really killer. And what's really kind of a shame is that a lot of folks don't understand just how press works. And, it's really worth sort of breaking into this. I recommend another Ryan Holiday book for this one. Trust me, I'm lying. But it'll show you the sort of dark underbelly of press. And as an editor of a publication that, we were doing big numbers for both published content and total viewership, I can tell you my incentives were to publish as much freaking content as possible. And my only limiter, my only governor, as it's in your car, is will publishing this piece help or hurt my brand as a publication?
Okay.
Right? So at the end of the day, the folks who are going to be able to give you credibility are doing that same calculation. This is a cool post, and I need it. I need it to survive because the more content, the better.
Yeah.
But will putting this person on blast actually hurt my brand? If not, you might be in. So what do you have to do to convince that person, an anchor entrepreneur or on their respective podcasts, that you're going to be a +1 to their brand, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to reverse engineer this yourself, the best thing to do is to publish great content over time at increasingly reputable levels, right? Okay. So let's just take written content for an example, right? We'll go quick on this. The thing you'll do to start is you probably publish on a blog, your own blog, right? Because there's no gating, there's no one's going to stop you.
Right.
So you publish a few pieces there, and eventually you feel pretty confident. You know what? I'm going to take a stab at contributing somewhere. I'm going to do a guest post, right? And again, the Google guest post, that's a whole world there. But more than anything, other bloggers, especially ones with middle-sized audiences, they also want more content. And if you could say, hey, again, I understand your audience. I know what they want. Here's what I can offer. Here's my ask. And I would love to do this with you. And you publish them, and you send them a finished piece in Google Docs. You send it a few places. That's an amazing opportunity to kind of go up one rung on the ladder, right? What rung is after that? What's a bigger guest post, right? Two publications that I think most of your listeners probably would be able to get into, with a little bit of work. One is Hacker Noon. It's a big contributor-driven publication around all things technology, investing, finance, and so on. So more in the business side of things. And on the other side of this, you might consider a publication called Thrive Global, right? Arianna Huffington's second act after Huffington Post is Thrive Global.
That's right. I knew I heard that somewhere. Yes.
Exactly, right? And and that thing happening in your head is already what we want. Oh, I've heard of Thrive Global. Yeah. And suddenly, this person who's written this thing I've heard of is suddenly a notch or two up in my ladder than they were a moment ago. Yeah. I actually heard Arianna talking about it. I saw her in the city. Was it a year ago? I think there was a big CNBC event, and I went. And they had some awesome guests. She was one of them. Sure. Damon John. Oh God, there was a slew of folks there. And that's where she was talking about Thrive Global, and I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. So that those are great platforms. There was something I want to just throw in here real quick because it's top of mind. I was watching Netflix a couple days ago, and I bumped into this. I'm like a huge documentary guy, like docuseries type of guy on Netflix. Like the only stuff that I watch like in leisure is like Despicable Me with my son, but every time I'm on Netflix, I'm like looking for the documentary and docuseries.
I'm a huge hip hop guy. I love hip hop. I've always loved hip hop. Not so much the new stuff, like for those folks that listen to me often, the hip hop that I like, the Jay-Z, the Nas, the Biggie, the East Coast guys, but older, right? And I found the show called Rapture, and they featured Nas, which one of my favorite rappers of all times. I'm trying to get him on the show. I'm working my ass off here trying to find my angles to have him come on. Yeah, to have him come on the show. And that will happen. I can promise you. I'm making the statement now. Anyway,
I'll check back with you in a year.
Yeah,
Definitely.
They were featuring him, and he had said something early on in the show that nailed me. He was like, so he's signing artists now. I guess he has a label or he's doing something that he now signs artists. And he goes, the artists that I'm looking for have the heart. They have put in the work. They're they're willing to work harder. And he was saying all these things, and he was like, I'm not interested in the folks that aren't doing anything, but want all the attention, and they want all the, what's the word he was looking for? What's the word he said? Like, they think that they're entitled to this just because, they've been doing it for, no. And that really stuck out to me, because what I heard him say was, like, if you want the credibility and the notoriety and you want the fame or the reputation, then you got to do shit. Right. So like, I don't like when people come to me and they're like, I want a funnel. Well, what makes you think, sure. I'm going to say this out loud. What makes you think you deserve a funnel, and that funnel is going to bring you the business that you think it's going to bring? Right.
A lot of stops in a funnel, and you got to have good stuff along the way.
That's my point, right? That's my point. So, if you want to be accredited, then you need to do great work. Okay. You need to do great work. And one of the things that I'm going to add to what Michael said was, if you want accreditation, then go get your audience and go get your customers some results. Take them from point A to point Z, right? And show people what you've done for them. I was on a client call this morning, and we were going over the architecture of what their website and funnel is going to how it's going to play out and all jammed together, right? And we got into the conversation of how they got to me, right? And how they invested $50,000 in this program with me. And I said, Nick, it wasn't just because I was on your podcast and you got warm and fuzzies during our conversation, because honestly, when I was on your show, we didn't even talk about funnels. We talked about my life and how I was able to persevere through all of this. And
there's that authenticity again. There's that showing us the knocks you got on the way to the top.
Right. But then I said, I hope it was more than just that got you to invest this kind of money in me. And then his partner chimed in and he said two things. One was, you got Russell Brunson on your website giving you accreditation, but you also have that 2 Comma Club awards hanging up on your wall. And for those folks that don't know what that is, it's when you generate over $1 million with one funnel. And so we were sick and tired of trying to figure this all out on our own. We said, why don't we just freaking hire somebody that does this, with their eyes closed? And that's why we did what we did and invested in you. So that didn't happen overnight, guys. That happened. I'm going on my 14th year of business. Yep. All right. So I just want to say that out loud, not to, puff up and pat myself on the back. No, but I want to challenge the folks that think they're going to make $1 million out of the gate to rethink that strategy and come down to reality a little bit. Listen, it's been done before. I've seen it and worked with some people that have actually done it. Lady Boss being one of them. They went, I think it was like 24 months and they were at 3-4 million. God bless them. But they put in the work. I mean, I worked with them closely and I saw the grit and determination that Brandon and Brandon and Caitlin had in their eyes. Like they were not messing around. So that was inevitable. But you got to have that kind of work ethic. And I don't see that in many. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. Very, very few people I see that in. But I knew right away when they came on board, they were like, let's go. And I was like, let's go. And it was just a happy marriage from there. And then that's why they got to where they want to be. But guys, you got to get out there and do good work. You got to get them talking about you because you do good work. Mm-hmm. Like mm-hmm. let your product or service be the most important accreditation tool you have, right? Because that's really going to help you get that attention that you're looking for, right? Get those people talking about you, writing about you, introducing you, or having you come on their podcast. Mm-hmm. And that's how you do it, guys. I wish there was an easier way, but there isn't. So focus your energy there. You can
but grease the wheels. But you can't fake good work.
No, man. No. And you're going to get found out real quick, man. Real quick. I've hired some people top dollar and I get into their program and I'm like, this is what I signed up for. Mm-hmm. Right? People are going to feel that right away. I don't want your business to get that reputation. Right? That's why I have a lock-tight process and systems in my business where nothing falls through the cracks. I'm always 3 steps ahead of you. And if I'm not, you better call an ambulance. And that's what I want you to focus in on. Focus on doing great work. Focus on your process. Focus on a product or service that's really going to move the needle for your customers. And that's, man, you're going to explode. You're going to explode. Mm-hmm. All right. So we went way over time, but it's okay. But I don't want to forget this part. So Michael, I so appreciate you taking the time today and sharing your insights.
Pleasure. This is my favorite part of doing this work, honestly.
Yeah, me too. Where can people learn more about you and the Truth Cartel and follow your journey from here?
Yeah, for sure. So the company website, truthcartel.com, will tell you everything you want to know about who we are, what we do. And then to jump in with me personally, I share some of my thoughts on Twitter at Gasiorek. That's Gasiorek, like the letter M for Michael. And beyond that, I do a little bit of writing. I do a little bit of extra, a podcast, speaking, all that kind of jazz. And I love it, So there's plenty more to be coming down the pipeline on that. On all things authority building, lifestyle business, growing personally and professionally. And I love this stuff, I breathe this stuff. So plenty more there if you guys want to tune in.
Yeah, you can tell you're a natural and you're really passionate about what it is that you do. I can feel it. And it's not just because you grew up in Jersey.
It's real, I drink my own Kool-Aid here, and like the secret to all of it is have fun and make it fun for others. That's a great way to be when you're doing these kinds of conversations. It's like, you've steered me and we've steered each other into places where that's going to be juicy. That's going to be fun. Yeah. And we'll learn something.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
When Todd connect us, big shout out to Todd over there at David Meltzer's
the
camp.
GOAT.
Yeah, he said that you and I were going to hit it off, and I this guy's been spot on since we started working together. So I knew this was going to happen. So Michael, again, thanks for coming on the show, guys. Go check out truthcartel.com. Go check him out on Twitter at Gasiorek-M, and I'll have his name in the show notes and things like that, so you know how to spell it. And we'll have links out. But thanks again for coming on the show, guys. I hope you got some value out of this episode. I learned a few things. I didn't know a couple of these platforms that he mentioned. So I'm going to go check those out after the show and see what we can do over there to increase our reach. So, guys, get out there and make it happen. You can listen to me all day long, but if you don't take action and do it, nothing's going to happen. So have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.
Cheers.
Hey everyone, this is Henry Kaminski Jr. again, and really quick, I want to invite you to a one-on-one consult with me right now if you're looking for the clarity and focus you need to build your brand. Over the past 13 years, I've served hundreds of entrepreneurs that have great products but struggled tremendously with articulating its value to their ideal customers. You didn't get into business to just change a few lives, did you? Your ideal clients need you. And when your brand has precision-crafted messaging coupled with beautifully thoughtful design that sounds, looks, and feels like you, they'll know you're the perfect match for them. If this is something you're struggling with, what I want you to do right now is pause this audio and go visit www.uniquedesigns with a Z at the end, not an S, .net, and book your one-on-one console call with me. Remember, the quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients, and the quality of your clients will determine the quality of your life.